Hi, welcome to Christina Lee Dot Meditation. I'm Christina Lee and I am a dot mandala artist. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to recreate this piece. This is called Winter Solstice. If you're not familiar, I have a Facebook group that I run a color challenge once a month, and this is the color challenge for the month of December 2020. If you're curious about the Facebook group, you can look in the description and I will link that below. Also, before I forget, I want to invite you guys to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and you want to see more like it. I also wanted to thank my Patreon subscribers. They are really awesome and have been so supportive of me in creating this content. And if you're wanting more exclusive content, including concept design of this piece and more information on it, you can go check out my Patreon page. I also list that below too. On to the supplies. So when I create mandalas, I do it just about the same time every time. I use all the same materials, even a lot of the same paints. So if you like my work and you want to follow along, I would encourage you guys to go ahead and get some of these items. And I'm listing a link to my website that's going to show the different items that I like to use on a regular basis. So if you're curious about that, you can also check that down below too. This canvas is done on a 10 by 10. It's a stretched canvas. And I believe I probably got this one at like Michael's or something with a coupon or 70% off. You can get them when they're on sale. You can get them at a pretty good price. The next thing you're gonna need is a stencil. I love using stencils. They're so much easier to me than drawing out my own grid lines. And this is a 12 by 12 segment. I got this one on Amazon. I don't know if they're selling these still. It's a 10 by 10. You might find it on Etsy too. If you don't have one of those, then you can always use a compass, and these lines here are a ½ inch apart, so you just start in the middle and you can draw, every ½ inch you can draw a circle. The next thing I use is watercolor pencils. I prefer these over chalk pencils because they're so much easier to erase, and they come in a lot of different colors. So if I'm doing a complicated piece, I can do it in a couple of different colors, and it's easier for me to see what's going on in my design. So on to actual dotting tools. I have a link for all of these things as well on my website. But these are from Beaute Galleria. I don't know how to hold these right. So these are from Beaute Galleria, and I have color coded all the tips of them. And so that way it's easier to reference. I am listing below as well all the different sizes that the tips are, but hopefully that will be easy for you guys to reference. This is my absolute favorite dotting set, the DIY Mandala Stone. I list these on my website as well, but you can also find them on Etsy. And this dotting tool set is my absolute favorite. I love how lightweight they are, how they dot, and they fit in my hand really nice, and they're also really easy to reference. And I grew up using them. This is what the set that I started with and what I've gotten used to. And I don't think I used this one in this design, but this is if you don't have it yet and if you're really into dotting, this is definitely a tool for you. It's an embossing tool for sewing, but the tip of this is a 0.5 millimeter tool, and compared to my smallest dotting tool, this is a 1 millimeter, so it's half the size. I definitely recommend having that in your arsenal. And of course you're going to need a ruler. And this little spongy guy, I also listed this on my website if you don't have these yet. This one's square, but probably a round shape would be make a little more sense. But anyways, this is gonna be to paint the canvas a color. So Golden Fluid Titanium White is my absolute favorite white. It goes on smoothly, so it's really easy to top dot on this paint. And if you know my work and you know I love Color Shift, I'm sorry, they're my favorite. They're by Folkart, and they're really stringy and delicious and delightful. But this one's Aqua Flash and this one's Purple Flash, two of my favorites in the set. And Decoart Metallics Ice Blue, beautiful blue. And then Folkart has extreme glitters that I found these at Walmart. I think you can probably find them just about anywhere that Folkart is sold. But the extreme glitter has a really fine glitter specks, that I like much better than any other glitter that I've seen. And the colors are the turquoise and the hologram. So hopefully you guys can find those. I hope I didn't miss anything, so we're gonna jump right into the painting, and if you have any questions, let me know. And hopefully we'll see you in the Facebook group. So we're gonna start off with the Aqua Flash, and I'm gonna first say, do as I say and not as I do, because you can see me coming in here trying really hard to get the last of my paint out of this bottle. And I'm leaving all of these rings all over the canvas, and I'm going to regret that later and try to fix it. So instead, a better way is to put this paint into a paint tray and dab your sponge into the paint tray and then put it on your canvas. And you'll see me do this with the purple flash. But I didn't mention this in my the beginning of the video where I'm showing all the different things that I was using. I did not mention the black paint. It is a liquid gesso. I like to use Liquitex, but you can use any black gesso. And I think it's important to put that black down first because it does show through a little bit. It makes the color of the Aqua Flash a little more rich, and I don't know, it just kind of adds to the feel of the painting. But this is your piece, so you can do whatever you want. That's just what I did. And I'm just coming through with the purple, and I'm adding it to the center and the corners. And I'm finding the center of the canvas. This is a 10 by 10. And to find it, you just measure out 5 inches on both sides and then draw a straight line. And voila, you got the center. And this is where you can take your compass. But I am not very much of a compass user. I'm more of a grid kind of person. And starting off, I am using a larger stylus, and so sometimes I have a hard time getting that center dot just centered, especially on the larger, using a larger dot. And so I went ahead and did a smaller dot, and then I did a larger dot on top of that. And that seems to really help me get that center dot just right. And then we're coming through with the placing some more dots right on top of the grid lines there. I am terribly sorry that I used an orange watercolor pencil on this blue. It did not show up very well, and I know better for next time. So wanted to let you guys know that after I had placed the grid and I started painting, I realized that was a dumb idea. But live and learn, right? If you get to know me and get to know my art, I dive in head first and then I think about what I've done later. Sometimes it's a really good thing and sometimes it's not so good. Kind of like when I got married after knowing my husband for about a month. But that wasn't so dumb. So, frozen fractals are fun, and I've done a lot of them. I'm obsessed with them. They're really cool. So if you've ever done like a Google search, or if you've ever, I don't know, lived in a place where you could actually see an individual snowflake and all the sides, they're so cool. They grow out on typically with 6 sides, most often. And they all grow out, all 6 sides grow out exactly the same most of the time. And it's just this very interesting way that nature expresses itself geometrically. And I'm obsessed by it. And I've done several snowflakes, frozen fractals, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, snowflakes. And you can do any kind of snowflake in the world. Because if you think about it, like every time it snows, like trillions and trillions of snowflakes fall. And they're all different. And they're all unique. And I feel like if everybody painted a snowflake every day for the rest of their life, we would never ever have a repeat. kind of blows your mind a little bit. The reason why I'm saying this is because you can follow this tutorial. I don't know, this one isn't the best snowflake I've ever done. But you can also make your own up, and I wanted to kind of give you, you know, an idea of where I'm coming from and how I achieve this, and then you can go off and make your own. Or you can copy this. It's totally up to you what you want to do. So, a snowflake typically has 6 sides, and in the center, quite often, it's much more dense in the crystallization of it, and then on the outer part, it sort of spreads out these arms, and, you know, depending on the design, those arms can create arms, and that's sort of the attempt that I was going for. By the end of this, it's going to be very sparkly and very beautiful, and I don't know, very fun. This type of design isn't typical. I don't know. It's kind of typical of what I normally do. I think the reason why I say it's a little bit different is because of the white that is used. I use a lot of it, and I do that to achieve this kind of very crystal, sort of crisp feeling. Because the winter solstice, it's like right before, you know, Christmas time in the northern hemisphere. And it just reminds me of, you know, it's really cold and bundled up, and when it snows, it doesn't snow very much where I live, but when it snows, and then the clouds have cleared, the moon is out full and bright, and then all of a sudden you've got the bright moon reflecting off of all of the fresh snow, and it's just this bright, luminous, magical, it almost like touches your soul, that kind of feeling that it produces. It's very spiritual, and that was kind of the feeling that I was going for with this piece, with the background, you know, being nighttime and also very luminous, with the dark blue kind of, you know, the shadowy feeling of it, but also the really bright white to give that sense of a contrast. And it's just really, it's so magical. And then the Aqua flash coming in, it's like, I don't know, like they really did something right with that Aqua flash. I'm so in love with it. It's like my favorite color. Anyways, I digress. So confession, this is the 3rd time I'm recording this, and every time I get a little bit more sappy, I'm not going to record it again, I swear to God. But I'm having a lot of technical difficulties. I love social media, but I hate technology. There's at some point in my life where I became really not very smart with technology, and I used to be pretty smart with it, and then it got way ahead of me, and now my kids know more than I do. Oh, I am digressing. Sorry, guys. Let's get back to the canvas, shall we? So we're adding these little white dots at the end. It's like this extra sparkly, magical goodness. And you'll see why more in a little bit. This is the part that I really wanted to emphasize, though. If you don't get anything else, get this part. When I lay my top dots down, the first pass that I go over, I'm creating a border of the dot, and that's it. It's not the texture. And then I come back in, and then I put the texture to it, or I try to achieve that dome shape, if that makes more sense. And to me, I found that's the best way to explain how to do a top dot the way that I do them, because I really like to get close to the edge to cover up most of that white. It's like a frame. It's like framing the color, and it really sets it off. It's really magical. And with that blue purple-ish background, it's just spectacular. And then when we come back in with the Aqua Flash towards the end, it's really something special and unique. But I wanted to say, like, you can follow this along and you can use the same size tools and all that, but I wanted to say that no matter what happens, you will probably not make one that looks just like mine, and that's fine, and that's good. And the reason why that happens is because you and I are going to be different, and we're going to have different styles and different ways that we do things. And so, like, for me, when I'm laying a dot down, I'm always very cautious and a little light-handed on laying my dots down. And so sometimes people can be a little more heavy-handed with their dots, so maybe they are applying more pressure, they are, just doing it a little bit different. And so neither one is good nor bad. I'm just saying sometimes, like the tool that I'm using now, if you were to use that tool, the paint might spread further, and so you might have to back off on the size of the tool a little bit. And so I'm just asking you to be a little bit flexible in which dotting tool you use. Like, why did I use this tool for this part? It's my favorite tool, but I probably should have used like a DIY Mandala stone tool. But you can do it this way, whatever. Maybe I'm demonstrating something, or maybe I'm lazy, I don't know. Anyways, I digress. So my point was, the way that I create is going to be it's going to be different than the way you create. And so if you follow exactly like mine, it might turn out not exactly the way that you were hoping. And so what I'm saying is, maybe, as you do every step, the tool that I suggest and that works for me, think about if it's really going to work for you, and if it's going to work for the next dot that you lay down. So this will make more sense, especially when we get to the Aqua Flash, because it seemingly feels a little random. But I wanted to just throw that out there and say, this is your piece, and you can take it where you want to go with it. I mean, you can take the colors and just do something totally different if you want. I do ask, though, if you do something like this, please post it in the Facebook group. That would be super cool. And I think people would enjoy seeing what other people have created or come up with. I'm just one artist, but there's so many people out there that can create such wonderful things. So this is kind of what I was talking about as far as the size of the dots go. I'm pretty light-handed sometimes. I don't like my dots to touch, but some people don't mind the overlap, and sometimes mine do overlap, and it is what it is. But these little spaces here, maybe you only have enough room for a gold tool, the really small dotting tool. And so I want to encourage you to, if you're copying this, just to keep that in mind. Just because I'm using the green one doesn't mean that you can't use the smaller one. So that's where I was going with that whole thing. So the color shift, I love color shift. It's so wonderful. I love it. It sings this song that almost no other paint sings. And I love using it in so many things, but it's interesting how, you can create these really beautiful dome-like dots with it. But in the background, we're painting over kind of the purpley part right now, but you know, that base layer was also this color too. And because it was such, we dabbed it on with that sponge brush thingy, it's gonna look way different than dotting it on. And so it's, I don't know, I think it's so magical how applying it differently in different ways, you get such a different look to it. But I wanted to mention that if you get these dots too thin, it's going to be pretty transparent, and I think the color is not going to show through as well. Like, you can see it when I lay my first layer of the dot down with this tool. You can see the texture of the canvas, and you can see kind of the color coming through underneath, and that's the nature of these color shifts. They are a little transparent if you don't get your dots thick enough. So just keep that in mind when you're using this this paint. So the aqua is kind of like, it's kind of being treated like the structure of the snowflake. Like, we're really trying to support the structure of these little delicate, dainty, tiny little sections. And by supporting it, this aqua flash is coming through and just making sure they don't fall apart. I don't really have a whole lot left to say about this piece. It's kind of really straightforward. Like, the colors are pretty simple, and you can do whatever you want. But I wanted to talk about the glitter for just a second, because we're going to get to that in just a minute. And when I applied the glitter, I learned something new with this piece. When I applied it as a top dot to the ice blue, the turquoise glitter, it created a dome shape, and I wish I would have gone through and I smoothed that out a little, because it left a little bit of a texture on the canvas, and at the end, you'll see it a little bit. It's not very obvious, but you know how those things go. Like, you screw up on something, like, that's the only thing you see, and nobody else can see it, right? But I just wanted to mention that, you know, kind of smooth out the glitter part. You can put as much glitter as you want on there. I tend to not be a fan of too much glitter. I think subtlety is kind of more my style, but you know, paint the whole thing with glitter if you wanted to. It's up to you. So anyways, I just wanted to mention that. But if you have any comments or questions about what the heck is going on here, leave them below. And I also would love feedback too. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyways. So if you have suggestions or ideas, let me know, and I will do my best to incorporate them. So happy dotting, and I hope you enjoy this music.